to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast in Australia. I know for our beautiful US family that you're getting ready to celebrate one of the most magical times of the year called Halloween. Some people say it's spooky, some people say it's exciting, and some people just enjoy the candy and the fun of it all. Whatever you do on Halloween, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic time. Here in Australia, it's not that big yet. It's growing year by year, and you know, we do have the odd child that comes trick-or-treating, and I'm always ready for that. But, you know, let's get on with the show. So this week, the Simply Tarot card of the week is one of my favourites. It's the World card. It's overseas trip, money, luck, or the world in the palm of your hand and new opportunities. Now, for many of us, we mightn't be sort of embarking on an overseas trip. I know lots of people don't have the finances to do so, and those that do haven't got the patience with the airlines and the airports and the queues. So for many of us, this will be just a card of money, luck, or the world in the palm of our hand. Now, we could all do with a little bit of money, luck, or a little bit more money. But for many people, this will just be the world in the palm of your hand. Now, what I mean by that is that you need to look around and see what opportunities may be afoot. It's a time now where that you really do need to sort of strut your stuff, put yourself out in the spotlight, stand up for yourself, speak up, sort of ask for that promotion, sort of look around and see which other ways that you can bring improvements into your life because you have new opportunities. When we look at the World card, there's 4 different parts there that there's 4 different, you know, you want to look at it as the compass points of the north, south, east and west, or everything under the sun, that we've got many, many directions that we can be going at this time, so that we can bring in new opportunities. And I know for many of you, this is going to be a welcome relief seeing this card, because it's like it's symbolising the end of some pretty tough times. And we have had tough times between pandemics and what's going on in Ukraine, and, you know, finances are being stretched to the limit, and everybody's sort of just starting to wonder, when is it all going to finish? You know, we just want a little bit of breathing space where we can just sort of, you know, breathe a sigh of relief and say life is getting back to normal, or what we used to know as normal, that we can, you know, start getting excited for the holiday season, starting with Halloween, getting your costume ready and getting the trick-or-treats ready and being ready to sort of start partying. And I think that's what we all need. I think we all need a little bit of relief now to be able to say that life is starting to get back to normal. So I hope you enjoy this card. And while I'm on the subject of Halloween, it's Simply Tarot's birthday on Halloween, and she will be 17 years old, and I feel like a proud mama and my child getting ready to go off to college. I didn't think that, you know, 17 years later I'd be sitting here still celebrating the Simply Tarot deck, and it's an amazing accomplishment. We've had many versions since then, but that was our very, very first baby. So happy birthday, Simply Tarot. So let's move on to the astrology section of the week, and it's always my favourite part of the show now, because so many people inbox me and tell me that they really look forward to this, that it gives them such insight in what's going on and helps them feel normal, that they know they're not the only one in the world feeling or experiencing things. So at the moment, the sun has moved into Scorpio, so it's the Scorpio time of the year. And some people sort of say, oh, I don't know whether I like that time of the year. It's not a matter of whether we like it or we don't like it. There's some absolutely amazing, wonderful Scorpios in the world. And it's not necessarily a time of negativity either. It's a time where we are being asked to dig deep and dig underneath the surface and look at the things that are hidden and bring them out into the light. It can be a time of intense emotions. It can also be a time for many of us where we just sort of slow down, catch our breath a little bit before we get into the very, very busy time of the year, where it's sort of like that last little time where we can sort of just sit still for a minute, grab a cuppa and just unwind and sort of, you know, work out our list of what we've got to achieve between now and the end of the year. So it's a time of reflection, but definite ways that they move forward in their lives, that they can be seen to be sometimes as being jealous and possessive, and they're not always that way. There's, you know, different variations of each sign, but they are very deep thinkers. They are very deeply emotional, and they don't necessarily wear their heart on their sleeve. Everything is usually very much under wraps with them. And they sometimes do tend to sort of need some time alone to be able to process and sort through their very deep, heavy emotions. And once they've done that, then they're happy to sort of come out of their little cave and sort of share a little bit of the experience with us. So we've got the sun in Scorpio, and the Sun is conjunct or holding hands with Venus, the planet of love and affection, who is also conjunct or holding hands the Moon. Now, these three planets are sitting in Scorpio at the moment, so we've just gone through the Sun. Venus is the planet of love and affection, and this is where we find the things in our lives that we love. So for anybody that's seeking to have a new relationship at the moment, that sort of has been a little bit lonely or is ready now to sort of embark on a new relationship, be very aware that if you attract somebody under this configuration, they may be very intense. They may not be the world's greatest party animal. They might be somebody that likes to look at life on a little bit more of a somber or a subdued way of looking at life. Not necessarily am I saying they're negative, or not necessarily am I saying that they're not able to have fun. I'm just saying that they're more mature, they have a more grown-up way of looking at life, and sometimes they may also sort of keep their emotions pretty close to their chest. Now, this doesn't matter what star sign they might be. This is if you attract new love under this energy, that you may attract somebody that's different to the type of partner that you've been used to attracting in your past. So be aware of this, make allowances for this, and sometimes it's nice to have a different type of relationship, because obviously if our previous relationships haven't worked, then the formula's wrong, is it not? So we need to be sort of embarking on something different. And it's a good time for that. For Scorpios, it's a time when you really should find what your passion is, find out what makes you smile. Be aware that your emotions can be a little bit intense over the next couple of days, and you might not be getting a lot of sleep. Your temper might be a little bit short because of lack of sleep, or you may not just be paying attention to other people's conversations. That's okay. It's your time to sort of really allow yourself to really dig deep and connect with yourself and understand your own very deep emotional energies, and sort of look at those and sort of say, well, okay, I may not be ready to share these with the world yet, but I'm having a darn good look at it myself and trying to understand it and come to terms with it. And that's good. We have Neptune, the planet of illusion and delusion and creativity. And I tend to think of Neptune as being the planet of creativity rather than illusion and delusion, helping us understand where we might want to be taking our lives over the next few months. The way that we would want them to, as if everything is sort of coming down to a point where, it's been really hard going. So to feel this sort of little bit of an energy shift where Neptune is actually conjunct Jupiter, but Jupiter's in the next sign of Aries, where Jupiter's the opportunity and the planet that gives us expansion and creativity and allows us to be able to dream big, think big, put things into bigger action. So those two sort of holding hands in different energies are showing us that, yes, we can have the really creative sort of side of the musical or the talented side of the Pisces energy, and we can couple that with the expansion and the opportunity of Jupiter sitting in Aries, which is asking us to think big, really push ourselves out there into the limelight, to really sort of get things moving in our lives, and giving us the opportunity to sort of really strut our stuff or bring things to fruition that have been maybe on the back burner for a little while. There's just one little word of caution here. Both of those planets are actually making a configuration or a square, which is in astrological terminology, is something that is at right angles, where we need to just be aware. We need to make sure that we've got all our ducks in a row, that we're not pushing too far too quickly, that we have everything sort of sorted out. You can just put the brakes slightly on the energy of Jupiter, but it's not necessarily going to take away from it, because Mars is the planet of action and opportunity. And with it sitting in Gemini, it's giving you some fresh ideas or some fresh markets or some fresh ways to look at things. So it may just be here, the square is going to say to you, hang on a minute, I know this has been your plan all along. This is where you believe your market is, or which door you need to knock on. But have you looked, or have you thought outside the square and looked at the potential that there could be an even bigger, better opportunity there if we only open our horizons up a little bit more and expand that that opportunity. Sort of don't just sort of look at it in, knocking on one door. Maybe let's knock on 10 doors. So it's going to be sort of a time where, one hand you sort of feel a little bit repressed, but then you think, now hang on a minute, why is the universe doing this to me? Is it asking me to revisit this, to look at this again and sort of say, okay, now I can see what I'm meant to do. Yes, it is the time to push forward, but I need to open up my opportunities, not just knock on one door. Let's knock on 10 or 20 or 30 doors. Finally, I want to talk about Uranus, the planet of the unusual and the unexpected, is sitting in Taurus, has been for a number of years now. Uranus's role here is to make us all look at the things that are important to us in our lives, the things that we hold dear to us. Yes, it may be asking you to reorganise your personal finances, and for many of us, there's been the last 2 or 3 years have been, like a yo-yo going up and down of adjustments and bringing in new ways that we deal with our personal finances and the things that are important to us. But I think it's more asking us to look at the things that are important to us in our lives. And for many people, that's been looking at their work-life balance, looking at the things that are important to them, which is their family, their friends. I know a lot of people have downsized or moved back home or taken jobs that they can work remotely or that gives them more work-life balance. And for other people, it's been about reorganising their personal finances and looking at things and saying, hang on a minute, I don't necessarily need all this materialism in my life to make me happy. Many people have gone from not so much being super materialistic, but looking at the material assets they've got and saying, well, I can only drive one car at a time, so therefore I'll downsize and only have one vehicle versus 3. I only need one place of residence to live in. I don't necessarily need 3 others to go and visit occasionally and dust. So it's about looking at those things and looking at the things that are important to us. But for many people, it's been the commencement of them going on their spiritual journey. Now, when I talk about a spiritual journey, I'm not talking about them reconnecting or rediscovering or finding for the first time their belief in religion. I'm talking about their ability to open up and listen to their own inner voice and start to discover the things that are important to them and really listening to their own inner voice for the very, very first time. I know that many people have messaged me and asked me, how do I get into astrology? How do I learn tarot? How do I do this? How do I do that? So there's many more what we used to consider mainstream people are now becoming enlightened, becoming aware and starting to look at their lives through a very different lens and starting to discover their own spirituality, which I find is really amazing, because when I first started in this industry many moons ago, it was sort of frowned upon as if you were some sort of weirdo to be working in this sort of environment or believing in the things that I did. And I always made a point of treating it with proper respect. I always dressed well. I always made sure that I was well groomed, and I treated my passion for spirituality and the psychic world in a way that I would if I was an attorney or I was an accountant or I was a doctor, that I really believed in my profession and I gave it that same sort of respect. And I believe it's paid off over the years that many people now look at the psychic and spiritual worlds through very, very different eyes, that, we're not all way out and wacky and, love life, lentil beans and hippie beads and all that sort of stuff, that, some very, very normal, mainstream, well-educated people have similar beliefs or, believe in this as a career as well. And, many people have dual careers. They have a daytime career and they have their spiritual career. So that's where we're going to leave the astrology section for this week. We're going to talk with Gillian in Maple Shade in New Jersey. What a lovely place that sounds like, Gillian.
Hello.
Hi, Gillian. Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
No, just maybe anything you like with my mom or just anything in general. My mom who passed, I don't know if...
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that your mum's passed, Gillian. That's always a very difficult time in our lives, isn't it, when we lose somebody that we were very close to and somebody that, we immensely loved. So would it be fair to say, Gillian, that there's a number of changes coming up in your life at the moment? Because that's the first symbolism I'm getting of that there's going to be some fairly major changes coming up in your life, but I already felt we'd already commenced that. Has this year been a year of change for you?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right. To me, they're not finished yet. Like there's still more sort of changes to come. I'm not sure whether I've got your mum coming through. I've definitely got a female energy coming through, but I've got a female telling me that you didn't get all the answers to her death. Was that your mum?
Yeah.
Because she's saying to me that it's not as black and white as what you think. It's sort of like you can't just look at it and say, well, that's the only one way to look at the information I've been given. It's like she wants me, like if I pick up this tarot card, she wants me to keep turning it over, like turn the information over. Don't just look at it as that's it. You know, turn the information over and look at it from that way, and then turn it sideways, and then turn it sideways again. You know, and I think that there will be more information or more ideas that will come to you that hopefully will give you a little bit of peace. Because to me, you haven't found peace yet with your mother's passing. I'm not talking about grief. I'm talking about peace. You haven't found the understanding or the reasons why she passed. That's what's been troubling you, as well as, you know, working through your grief. Does that make sense to you, Jillian?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she was very clearly sharing with me, along with the fact that she gave me the most beautiful big pink heart to give to you. So that's her way of telling you she still loves you and she's around you and she sees everything that's going on. But she wants you to get peace of mind. She wants you to be at peace with her passing. It's, you know, she understands and she appreciates there'll always be a sense of loss. There'll always be a sense of sadness, but she's troubled by the fact that you haven't got peace, that, you know, you don't understand or there wasn't enough answers to her passing. She's not able to sort of share with me more than what she's done about how to get that peace, but that's what she's asking me or sharing with me. She's also sort of showing me what looks to me like a fresh new beginning. So have you been contemplating or thinking about moving or making changes to where you're living?
No. We have 3 kids and, you know, new jobs, things like that, maybe.
The reason I asked that, Gillian, was because she showed me a house to me that was really shiny and new, as if she was sort of indicating there was something new coming for you. So I wasn't sure whether that meant a new home or whether she meant that, you know, the house itself, the place that you're residing in with your family is going to feel fresh and new, you know, as if you've done something different. You bought a new couch or you hung a new set of drapes up or something that you're sort of standing back and admiring, and sort of it was sort of like the beginning point of things starting to go right. So I do feel 2023 will be a much easier year for you guys, much easier on the finances than what this year was. And I think you've just got to try and find some sort of peace, you know, that there's nothing you could have done to have changed your mother's passing. It was something that obviously was meant to be, as tragic as that sounds, but she just wants you to find peace. She's very concerned that you're not finding peace within yourself. Know that she loves you, she's with you, she sees everything that's going on. She quite often is, you know, dropping in and seeing how her grandchildren are doing. She really loved her grandchildren, and she's with you all the way, Gillian. So that's where we're going to leave Gillian now, in Maple Shade in New Jersey, and we're going to talk with Wendy in Brandon in Mississippi. Are you there, Wendy?
Yes, ma'am.
Do
you have a question I can answer for you, Wendy?
Well, I don't know if you can, if you do these kinds of readings or not, but I recently, actually today, is a year anniversary of me losing my children's father.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that,
I
Wendy.
never got to see him. It was a while before we contacted each other, which was normal, but this time, I didn't ever get to get back in touch with him.
So when you say that it had been a bit of time before you'd been back in touch with him, were the two of you still in the relationship, or were you living separate lives?
we were living separate lives, but we still, you know,
Mhm.
interacted because of the children.
Oh, of course, yes. But I mean, no matter which way you look at it, it's still a tremendous loss for you. I mean, he was still someone that was incredibly important in your life. He was the children's father. You married the
Yes,
man.
ma'am.
So at one stage
We
or
still
another
love
in
each
your
other.
life, yeah, exactly. That you believed you were going to have a lifetime together. And
Yes, ma'am.
sometimes that, path is a little bit different to what we first imagined. It's
Mhm.
interesting because the first thing he's saying to me is that you don't need to be sorry. So I'm taking from that he's asking you to sort of let go of that, stop beating yourself up at the fact that you hadn't got back to him quickly enough or whatever. He doesn't want you to feel that remorse. He doesn't want you to feel sorry. His major concern is that he's concerned that the children aren't coping as well with his passing as what he would like to see. Is there one
Yes, ma'am.
child in particular that is quite shut down
Yes, ma'am.
emotionally, reserved? Yeah, he's very
Yes, ma'am.
concerned about that child. He's
Mhm.
very concerned
They're
about that
both handling
child.
it differently.
Yeah, I mean, everybody handles grief differently, and there's no reason to say that there's a right or a wrong way. But
Yes.
for him to bring that through to me that, he loves all his children, but there was one in particular he was concerned about because he feels that they're not so much processing it, I think not dealing with the overwhelming emotions. And it's sort of, like some children will get angry, some children will do drawing, some will take it out on their sport, and some people will just be like little chatterboxes, and some just shut down. This one to
Yes.
me is shut down. And that's a
Yes, ma'am.
concern because we've got to help them understand that, yes, this is a part of life, as sad as it is, and it is okay to be sad, and it is okay to be angry, and it is okay for the little one to sit there and be cranky with their dad because he's no longer here. That's all normal stages of grief. Wendy, can I suggest a particular book that you
ma'am.
can buy that's readily available that talks on the different stages of grief? It's by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and it's called On Death and Dying. Now, that's one book she wrote. She wrote a number of books, but from memory, she wrote one specifically for children too, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But if you were to go to the local library, they would have probably many copies of this book. She spent her life working on grief and helping people overcome it, work through the stages. There's 7 different stages of grief, and she gives you opportunities and exercises and explains to you how to try and break the barriers down of if you get locked up in a stage of grief. When I went through losing my husband many, many years ago now, and my children were little, I found this book invaluable, helping me help them. They were little, I was young, and nobody really talked about grief, and it was sort of one of those sort of taboo sort of subjects, as it still is today. And it's everybody grieves in a different way, and children, if we don't get them through this, they can then go on to have problems later in their life, quite often end up alcoholics or into drugs or into crime because they don't know what to do with this unresolved ball of emotion that they've got locked up inside of them. So, your late husband is coming through. He's a lot happier now, so he seems to sort of feel that we can get on top of this problem with that child. He keeps showing me a beautiful big pink heart, but he's also giving me a bunch of flowers. So I'm taking from that the heart is for everybody, you and the children, but I think the flowers are for you. It's his little way of saying, you're doing a great job. I miss you. I don't know that he was ready to go when it happened, and I don't think it was something that he expected.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so
He
it took
overdosed.
him a little bit of time. Yeah, but it took him a little bit of time to get used to it. Did you say he overdosed? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, that explains then why he's so concerned about that child that's not coping with his death. I mean, how can you explain that to any child, no matter how old they are, that, a parent took their own life? Because children take that back as a personal thing at what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough for my dad? And they're the sort of things that I think that you can get addressed if you can get hold of that book. It's called On Death and Dying, Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I know it will help you, Wendy, and I wish you well, sweetie, and know he's always around you and the children. It's always difficult. That's where we're going to leave Wendy, now in Mississippi. It's always difficult when you lose somebody, but I think it's even more difficult when someone takes their own life because we don't seem to understand why. And there's many very different reasons why somebody feels the need, or whether it's an accidental overdose or it's intentional, and sometimes we'll never really know the answers to that. But grief is grief, and grief is very difficult for each and every one of us, no matter which way we lose somebody. And unfortunately, it's something that none of us can escape. We all go through grief at some stage or another in our lives. So my heart goes out to people that have lost people. I know how difficult it is. As I mentioned before, On Death and Dying by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, in my opinion, is the best book on grief. So I'll leave you with that book on grief. Now, to leave you with the song of the week, I really had to think hard about what would be appropriate and what would be a nice Halloween-y sort of song, because we'll have a little bit of a Halloween theme next week, even though it'll be 24 hours past Halloween. And I came up with a song that I don't think many people are going to know. No, I didn't pick the Monster Mash or anything like that. I picked a song called Spooky by David Cassidy, and I'm going to leave you with Spooky this week and David Cassidy, and have a happy Halloween. And don't forget to have lots of fun while you're trick-or-treating around this amazing globe of ours. See you next week. Bye for now.